Guess what, guys? Bought another tent. Bought with my own cash from Camping World. So anyway, you'll recognise this one when I bring it out because it's been around a good number of years, but it's one I've never tried and seems to be well rated by other users. The tent in question is a Robens Starlight 1. They certainly don't skimp on the promotional bump. So it's a bit more bulky and a bit heavier than the average one-man tent I've had before. It comes in about 2 kilos, so it's on the chunky side, but it is a polyester fly sheet with a very high hydrostatic head. So it's really more about just being bomb-proof in winter. Pretty chunky roll top stuff sack with a plastic buckle fastener. Instructions again are sewn into the stuff sack in a Tieback sheet. So this is quite encouraging. I was a wee bit worried about having to fit these poles. I'd seen a couple of videos I think where people would struggle to put them in, and I think that's because you have to unscrew the tops and pop them through the brass eyelets. This apparently is a 21 model, so there's a few changes in it. I'm not sure quite what they are. I think they removed 2 vents and just have a single vent now, and I think there's some weight savings at the bottom of the fly sheet, I believe. Pegs look okay, quite sharp though, don't know if you can see that in the camera there. And good, bunch of repair swatches as well inside. I'm not sure if there's a pole sleeve for repair, but I'll check that as well. It actually only needs 8 pegs, which is quite a small amount for the average one-man tent compared to what I'm used to. It's got one single main pole, which is a relatively chunky diameter. It's not DAC or Yunan, it's just an unbranded 7001 type pole. You can see the wee corner points here on the pole which give you a slightly more headroom, which I'll show you in a second. And it does come with a pole sleeve. I see the guy lines come with guy retainer clips, just these wee press and pull plastic connectors, so you can tie up the guy line and tuck it away without it getting tangled. Whether I'll keep that I don't know. I might remove them just to save a bit of weight. Yeah, I know I'm talking grams, but it might still be worth it. So I had a wee bit of a problem with this one. The knurled end unscrewed and kept falling out, but I've put it back together again. Seems to be alright. The buckle situation, or just the way the straps work, was also a wee bit confusing, but I've worked that out now. I should have known from other people's videos. So there's a lot of tension on these 4 corner pegs, so they have to be well buried just to give the tent tension. So I think this should just go basically around there. Another one here. There's actually 3 of them right along the pole with double securing points on each one. So seems pretty good. And I believe this is very much like a Hillenberg guying system where you wrap the lines around the pole. I'm not sure if I've done this right. I'm sure somebody will correct me, or I'll have to work it out. Okay, I think what I need to do is take the middle clip off again. And then, yeah, so wrap that first, then put the middle clips back in place. That's also a good wee bit of design that the line lock is in the high end of the guy line nearest the tent. So if these lines end up buried in snow, you can still adjust the tension. There's a kind of metal clip which I'll show you, which I think I've over tightened. No, it's fine, we can just put it on the basis that that looks a bit right. And then there's a wee tension buckle on either side, just to pull the fly tight over the pole. And last thing on the outer is this prop vent, which I'll just pop up now. So far so good. Just a learning process really, but it's pretty quick. And with only, what, 8 pegs, it will go up very easily once the inner's attached to it the second time around. You've also got these zippable end vents in the style of the Hillenberg Axle, for want of a better description, which I believe can be opened from the inside and outside, just to promote a wee bit of airflow. Even on the downward side of the wind, it would stop rain getting in. and just a typical Tieback. Say typical Tieback, yep, there it is. Which is not elastic. I would have preferred that to be elastic for a wee bit more secure. Which hopefully will be straightforward. The inner clips in with a ball and receiver joint. I don't know if you can see that properly. It's very positive. I've never actually seen that design before, but it's quite smart. It's good to see that the corners on the ground have got adjustable tape to tension up the floor. It's quite handy when it's a kind of very rough pitch or very uneven. It's quite tight. Kind of head's rubbing the top there, so I may have to detach the inner if I'm cooking. But yeah, I didn't expect anything more spatially than that. A lot of people opt for the 2, but I really fancied the compactness and the slightly less weight of the 1, and possibly because it might be marginally stronger in high winds. Of course, being a polyester fly sheet, there'll be none of the stretch or some of the noise associated with sewn nylon. It also means it's tape seamed. So I'm going to use a Rab Ascent. I think it's a 700. I'll check for you tonight and just test that out as well in here. I'm not expecting it to be remarkably cold. I think it might snow if we're lucky. It may turn to rain. So that's the Rab. I'll show you the mat actually. You can see the that's the mat in the midpoint, so there's probably nearly a foot at either end. Try and turn this round for you. So it's quite a long inner, but actually because the inner tapers down from a typical kind of single hoop, hopefully that just gives you that wee bit more headroom without it feeling too claustrophobic. There's also 2 internal pockets at the back here, and the inner tent kind of flares out slightly, so you get that extra few centimetres at the back for storing gear. And I mentioned how you can vent the inner from the inside. If I can do this. So there's a midgie net here. I don't actually know if there's another set of... Ah, okay, so although you can open this part of it, you can't actually access the vent through the mesh. I'm just double checking for you. Right, I thought possibly you could do the whole thing from the inside, but you can't. You'd have to put your arm round the back and then close it, or get out the tent to close or open it. So I've moved the sleeping mat down towards the foot end a wee bit, and I would say that's clear. That's not going to cause me any problems with condensation or touching the fly sheet. And if I spin this around, hopefully you'll see how much headroom we've got. So I don't know if that helps you see it, hopefully it does, but I've got a good 1.5 feet up above me here, so I'm pretty well clear of the inner. It doesn't feel claustrophobic. The door itself tucks into a pocket at the far end here, which is quite smart. And they've also included things like hanging lines, just for drying out socks, putting your lantern up, etc. So in winter it'd certainly be a very warm tent. You can actually fully enclose it. There is no mesh that cannot be covered up, and there's a quarter panel on the door here which you can unzip, and again thoughtfully they've included luminous pullers. I'll show you them down here. For the middle of the night if you need to get out. This is the roof vent, so you can zip and unzip it from here just to maintain a bit more airflow. In terms of cooking space, it's quite a narrow vestibule. You'll get away with it I think if you're very careful, but I'd be a wee bit nervous. Probably keep the door open when I can. A couple of minor things on the main door which I'd like to have seen is a catch at the bottom to stop zip creep. There's nothing there, and at the top I'll just swing around, it's not a two-way zip, so you can't vent from the top to help when you're cooking, or just for looking out, or just general condensation management. I didn't notice it before, but on the top vent as well, when it's closed you've still got a midgie net area, so there is some airflow but without letting bugs in. So I guess in terms of space compared to say the Helium UL1, which I used a couple of weeks back if you watched my video, this feels maybe even marginally lower, marginally tighter I think across the head. The floor plan is fine, it doesn't seem to bother me, and the length is excellent, so it doesn't feel claustrophobic in terms of head and feet at the inner, so that's okay. Vestibule I think is very similar in size. You probably couldn't split it between this and the Vango. So $159.99. I really do think it's a really nice tent for the money. So even though it's a backyard test, I'm hoping around about 9 o'clock-ish, heavy snow. Oh, it's wet. Jeez, oh. Yuck. Not a nice night at all. Well, as you can probably hear outside, it is not a nice evening. The forecast snow appears to be fairly persistent rain. Anyway, I'm going to put a wee hot water bottle in, a candle on, and I brought a book just to pass some time. Right, let's get settled in. Get my shoes off for a start. It's not that cold tonight, it's definitely just above zero, so. Right, we're cozied up for the night. I can honestly say it's such a small internal volume that it's really warm. I was sitting in my boxer shorts with it just above zero outside and I wasn't uncomfortable at all. Anyway, that's us in. So I'll have a wee read of a book. I've got a hot water bottle in the bag as well, but I don't think I'm actually going to need it. Well, it was a wet and windy night in the end, as you can probably hear. But the tent really gives you confidence. It's very well built, very solid and very quiet, so as a result I had a good night's sleep. So despite being a very damp, wet night and initially very still, there's no condensation on the inner tent, which is quite good. I kept both foot vents open, which may have helped. But yeah, it's bone dry inside, that's good. So, the Robens Starlight 1. What's my first impressions? Very well made. It looks like really good value for £160. Robustly sewn, robust materials. The penalty is the weight is slightly higher, but if you need an all year round option, I think it's a cracker. Seems to be really good. Vents very well. Plenty of options, lots and lots of useful features. Just enough room inside. It is tight, but I wasn't expecting anything more. And you can always detach the inner and use the outer only. So yeah, well recommended so far. I'm looking forward to getting out again and trying this properly. But if you have any questions, just drop them below and I'll try and answer them as best I can. Thanks again for watching and see you soon.